Good morning, learners. We're so happy you're here. We want to introduce ourselves. My name is Abby Carlson.
And I'm Mrs. Kraft.
It's so great that you're here. We are going to be talking all sorts of English language arts, but primarily this whole week, we are going to focus on narratives.
So welcome, learners. I'm glad you're here with us. We are going to be doing, as Ms. Carlson said, English language arts for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. But if you are a rising 2nd grader, please jump in and join us. Likewise, if you are exiting to middle school and you were a 5th grader last year, join us also because we may teach you some skills that you'll need to progress to those grades.
Absolutely. To kind of guide us this week, and next week too, we're going to use an essential question. Maybe you've used those in your classes before, but it's a question that we're going to keep using and thinking about as we're learning all of these new strategies in reading, writing, spelling, vocabulary, all of that. This essential question will kind of guide us. Did you want to introduce it?
I would love to, thank you.
Great.
And so our essential question this week, and we're going to use it into next week, is going to focus around writing, and it's going to focus around narrative writing. Do you remember what narrative writing means? Can you say it if you have a grown-up or maybe a sibling in the room? What does narrative writing mean? Did you remember that narrative writing is telling a story? Yeah, so it's just a story that we can write. And so our essential question that we're going to focus on is how do authors use narrative elements to write a story? So we're thinking about those narrative elements. This is kind of a big word, isn't it? Elements. That means how do authors use the things that they need to create that story? Go ahead, Mrs. Carlson, and she's our writing expert.
Definitely. And I just want to say that narratives don't just happen in writing. They happen in reading, they happen in speaking.
Right.
When was the last time you were telling someone a story? I tell stories all the time. You'll never guess what happened. Sometimes that starts my story. Or just the other day, and then my story begins. As we unpack this essential question, we'll learn more about what narrative elements are and how they help us understand narratives and stories. I'm excited to learn with you. All right?
All right, Ms. Carlson, thank you.
I'll see you soon.
She's going to leave now and join us a bit later when we start to talk about how to create those narrative ideas for your stories. All right, so in order to create these stories, there's some things that we need to do, and it's all under that umbrella of English language arts. And so today, I'm going to work with you on some of those elements that we talked about, some of the things that you need to create that story. The first thing that you need to do to create a story is, what do you think? Take a guess. Say it into your TV. If I'm going to write a story, I need to have, did you say characters? If you did, you were exactly right. That's our number one element. Here's that word, element, that we need to create that story is a character or characters. So those characters could be human, they could be animal, or they could be things. But they have to have some kind of an interaction, don't they? And we call that a word that's conflict. So our characters have to have some kind of a conflict to have a story. And that may seem like a lot to you, but you go through this every day, all day long. So conflicts don't necessarily have to be something that we maybe get in a scuffle with somebody else about. Conflict could be something like you have a decision to make, and you have two great options. Should I choose a chocolate chip cookie, or should I choose a sugar cookie? I love both of them. That's a conflict, because I can only have one. So you can see that conflicts can also happen. So the other day it rained really hard. I had to run outside and grab things in from my backyard because I didn't want them to get wet. And that was a conflict that I had with the weather. I wanted it to rain, but I also wanted to save my things. So there are things, so that was a conflict. So when you're thinking about stories and you work with Ms. Carlson, you're going to be thinking about those conflicts that happen in your life every day. And we're going to read a story today about a little boy named Ralph. And Ralph wants to write a story so badly, but he's not sure he has one in him. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Another element that we need when you write a good story are to have some exciting words. So we're going to talk a little bit about vocabulary. And we want to use those words to create a better story, a more vivid story that has images that you can see. So before we get to our vocabulary for today, I want to tell you kind of what you might need for our episode. So when you join in, and we are going to be here 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for our summer session for the next 4 weeks. So when you tune into our show, I'd like you to have a paper, pencil, pen, anything you like to use to write, and a notebook would be really awesome. So if you have a composition book, that works perfectly. If you have a spiral notebook, that would also be really great. If you don't have either of those things, you can create your own writing journal. And I'd like you to create one so that you have it with you every time you tune in. That way you can keep your vocabulary words, some of the phonics lessons we're going to talk about, you can keep them all together in one place. And so if you don't have a notebook or anything to use, you can grab some paper. If you have lined paper, that works really well. I made one. I just created some construction paper, punched some holes, and found some ribbon. So there you go. I have a writing journal that I created. If you don't have construction paper, no worries. If you don't have lined paper, it's okay. I had some just blank paper, and I found some cardboard, and I glued some pictures on it. So you can create your own kind of writing journal. All right. So if you have those with you, that'd be awesome. If you don't have them for today, that's okay. Let's get them. See if you can maybe come up with something for tomorrow, some homework for you. All right. So I want to talk to you about some vocabulary now. And sometimes the best way to learn vocabulary is to see it in a picture. So I'm going to show you a picture, and then we're going to talk about a word that picture relates to. All right. So let me show you my first picture. What do you see in this picture? Can you say it to your TV? I see a really cute dog, right? And below him is his food bowl. His food bowl is empty. What do you think he's saying to his, he's kind of looking up to me. He might be looking at an adult or maybe somebody that's going to feed him. And he looks like he's saying, I need to be fed, right? I'm hungry. So our dog's name is Waggles. And Waggles is going to introduce our first word, which is presume. The word presume. Let me show you how it's spelled here. P-R-E-S-U-M-E, presume. And it relates to this picture because Waggles presumes that someone will feed him. It's dinner time. So that's our dog and our word. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this word, using a device. You may have used this in your classrooms with your teachers, but our device is called a Frayer chart or a Frayer model. And we're going to use our words in the Frayer model. You can see it here. Have you used this before? You may have. Let me explain to you. So what I'd like you to do in your notebooks, when you get one, is just to create this. You can just draw this really simply. So we're going to put the word right in the middle, right in a box in the middle. Over here, on the left-hand side, we're going to write the definition of the word. Down below that, we're going to write a sentence. On the right-hand side, we're going to talk about a synonym and an antonym. Oh, do you remember what those words mean? Synonym is a little bit easier. It means a word that is the same. So a synonym of presume, a word that is the same. We'll talk about that. Antonym means a word that is the opposite. You said that, good job. Antonym means opposite. So let's think about that a little bit. Not all words have synonyms, something that's the same, or an antonym, something that's opposite. But we'll talk about those if we come to them. Presume actually does. So, synonym, antonym, and then we're going to jump down to our favorite part, which is how we introduced our word, an illustration. Do you remember what illustration means? In our books, we have illustrators. Right. It means to draw a picture. So a picture of that word so that you can learn it better. It's in your mind. All right, so we're going to do a Frayer model for all the words that we talk about. And today I'm just going to introduce 2 words to you. So let's talk about our word presume. Definition. Do you remember what Waggles? Can you come up with a definition in your own words for presume? Waggles definitely thinks somebody's going to feed him, doesn't he? He presumes. Say that word with me. Presume. Say it low. Presume. Say it high. Presume. Sometimes I like to say it with a British accent because it reminds me of being in very proper. I presume. All right. So let's think about a definition. Definition for presume. One that I found was to expect or assume with confidence. Wow, it's got some big words in that definition. You expect something to happen. If you take a test and you know you have all the right answers, you presume that you are going to score well on it, right? You're going to get a good grade for that class. So you expect that you did well. Assume is the same thing. Waggles assumes somebody's going to put food in his bowl. He sure does. And does he look confident to you? He looks pretty confident to me too. So Waggles wants that food in his bowl. So if you could write a sentence down here about what Waggles expects, or you could use your own dog. So a sentence about presume. Waggles presumes that someone will feed him. Let's think about a synonym. So that's going to be a little bit easier when we have our definition, right? So a synonym could be to expect. A synonym could also be to assume. So both of those words mean pretty much the same thing as presume. What about an antonym? What could mean the opposite of presume? Well, if you presume, you're pretty sure it's going to happen. But you're not quite there, right? So you can't confirm it. So confirm could be an antonym. Or another word that's kind of long is verify, right? You verify something, you make sure it's true. Those both could be antonyms for presume. You could come up with some others. And then an illustration. So for my Frayer model, I could just put my picture there, right? We have our cute little dog Waggles and his bowl. So that illustrates what presume means. Can you think of a picture that you could draw for that word? A bet you can. Okay, so that's our first word. I'm going to remove the definitions for that one and reuse my chart. If you're drawing it in your notebooks, you could do it either a portrait, and you probably could put 2 words on the same page, or you could turn it sideways to give yourself more space and do 1 on each page. So if you wanted to do that, either way works. It also might be a great idea if you can have maybe a grown-up, or maybe you know how to do this, help you sort of mark a section of pages. You could tab that section and keep that as your dictionary. That way, when you go to write with Ms. Carlson, you have all those fabulous words already there for you, and you can flip right to those and use those. I'd love to see you use some of the words that we're talking about. Right. So our next word has a picture also. Can you see this picture? What's going on? Can you describe it to a grown-up or somebody that's with you? Let's talk about it. So it looks like we have a couple that is getting ready to eat some lunch. But this looks like a lady that may be the waitress. Maybe it's a friend, who knows? But she has a plate of spaghetti, and that has fallen all over the lady in the white dress. Uh-oh. My goodness. So our word is mortify. Such a great word. Let me show it to you. Mortify. M-O-R-T-I-F-Y. Mortify. And mortify is to cause someone to feel embarrassed or humiliated. Those are some big words too, aren't they? So our waitress, or the person that spilled the pasta all over the lady in the white dress, is feeling mortified. So our person that spilled that pasta, her name is Myrna. And she was mortified when she spilled spaghetti all over the lady in the white dress. Yikes. Okay, so our word, mortify. Can you say that with me? Mortify. I like to say it kind of scary. Mortify. Say it high. Mortify. All right, let's put our mortify right in the middle of our Frayer model. So you can see if you create another Frayer model, we can use it for this word too. So let's take a look again at our picture. What would your definition of mortify be? A little bit, ooh, maybe scared, maybe worried, right? Let's take a look here and show you what I told you earlier. Cause someone to feel embarrassed or humiliated. Right? Because she probably feels a little bit embarrassed about doing that. It probably just slipped right off, and it happens, right? Have you ever spilled your milk in the lunchroom? Sometimes you feel mortified, but it's okay, right? It can be cleaned up and move on. So I would love you to come up with a sentence for mortify. Synonym and antonym. Remember, go back to the definition. You're going to find some synonyms in here. Antonym means the opposite. So if you're mortified, you're probably on edge and you're very nervous. An antonym might be you feel calm or you feel peaceful. And then an illustration. I'll bet you can come up with a good illustration for mortify. All right. So those are our 2 words for today that I want you to make sure that you have down in your book. I'm going to leave that up there for you. And next, I wanted to share a story with you. Since our essential question, remember, let's revisit that. We're going to talk about how authors use narrative elements to write a story. And now we're going to read a book called Ralph Tells a Story by Abby Hanlon. And this is a story about a little boy who just really, really, really wants to write a great piece of work. Our book today is by Abby Hanlon, and it is published by Two Lions, and the illustrations are in watercolor, and they are by Marilyn Bigham. So she did watercolor. I bet you have used watercolor at school. So this is called Ralph Tells a Story. My teacher always said, stories are everywhere. And the kids in my class were always finding them. Then my mom ran so fast that she caught up with the ice cream truck. I ran down the hallway with underwear on my head. After that, I decided to hide my Halloween candy in my bed. Here's the teacher, yay, stories! But every day at writing time, I thought really hard. I stared at my paper. I stared at the ceiling. I could not write a story. I have no story. So I looked for other things to do. I went to the water fountain. I roamed hallways. I tried everything. Can I go help the lunch ladies? Can I go to the bathroom? Then one day, after getting sent back to my desk, I begged Daisy for help. I can't write a story because nothing happens to me. Are you kidding? She said. I've written a ton of stories about you. She began pulling stories out of her desk. Look at this one, she said. Remember the time you let me brush your hair? And this one, remember the time you knocked down all the crayons? Oh, and remember the time you painted your nails with a black marker? I thought, I'll never be a great writer. Then Daisy stapled all her stories together. Wow, she said, this book is already 13 pages. Can I use the stapler, I said. I'm really good at stapling. But you have nothing to staple, said Daisy. You have to find a story first. So I looked for stories out the window, in the aquarium, in my desk. And when my teacher wasn't looking, I looked for stories on the floor. But still, no stories. I sat down and tried to write about the inchworm, but I got stuck right away. Oops, I'm sorry, I skipped a page there. Lying under my desk reminded me of lying in the grass at the park. I closed my eyes and imagined I was at the park. Just like that time, a little inchworm crawled on my knee. The sun was shining right into my eyes. Squinting, I picked up the wiggly inchworm and looked at it close up. And that's when my teacher found me. What's your story about? She said. I opened my eyes. I saw an inchworm. Wonderful, she said. I can't wait to read what you wrote. But there was no inchworm story. I sat down and tried to write about the inchworm, but right away I got stuck. Do you know any inchworm stories? I asked Daisy. She just rolled her eyes and kept on writing. And then my teacher said, writers to the rug, time to share. Ralph, why don't you go first? Said the teacher. I pretended that I had lost my paper. It didn't work. I walked to the front of the rug. Took a long time. I held my paper against my chest so no one could see it. I was at the park, I said. An inchworm crawled on my knee. It was quiet. My heart went thump, thump, thump. That's when I looked at Daisy. Wow, really? Did it feel squishy, Ralphie? Did you take it home? And then everyone started asking me questions. Did your mom let you keep it? Did you touch it? Was it a baby? Was it a girl? Did it tickle? Did you name it? Wait a minute, I thought. Something did happen with that inchworm. Well, I picked up the inchworm and decided to name him Nick. I built Nick a house, but he just inched away. So I followed him, which is why I didn't notice that someone was following me. And then all of a sudden, this wobbly, crazy baby grabbed Nick and put him in his diaper. I tried to be calm. Come on, baby, I said, really nicely. Give Ralphie the inchworm. It didn't work. Was this the end of Nick? But then I noticed Nick was escaping. He crawled right up the baby's stomach. Quickly, I rescued Nick and ran. And we spent the rest of the afternoon doing nothing together. The end. Everyone clapped and cheered. Show the picture, Ralph, someone said. I wasn't embarrassed anymore, so I did. That was last year. This year, I write stories all the time. I keep finding stories everywhere. Writing tips from Ralph. Number 1, get comfortable. Number 2, it's okay to ask for help. Number 3, you can always write about what you had for breakfast. Number 4, eat lots of chocolate. So that's our story about Ralph and his struggle to write a story, but he discovered that he could. And I know that you can too.
Hi, learners. I'm Miss Abby, and I'm back to talk about writing. I love writing. Some kids, when they hear writing, they go, ugh, don't do that. Writing is just telling your story. And it doesn't even have to use a utensil. Writing can be what you're thinking in your brain, and if you can get it on paper, then others can see what's happening in your brain. I tell stories all the time. This morning, I forgot my watch. I don't know if you can see, but I was in such a hurry and I was so scrambled that I forgot my watch. That's a quick story. Think about the first time you did something. Let's see, the first time I came to New Mexico. I was with a friend and I noticed the beautiful mountains and I thought, this state has the bluest sky I have ever seen. That's another story about the first time. You can think about stories that start with the last time. The last time I saw my nieces. My nieces all live in California. Do you have family in other states? You can think about the last time you saw them. Sometimes it makes you feel really sad. Stories can make you sad, they can make you happy, they can make you giggle because you can think about, oh, that was so embarrassing. That happens to me a lot. Stories are the way that we connect with people. You can have make-believe stories, you can have lies, you can have stories that really happened or stories that might happen. Stories are all over us, all over, and it's so fun to think about how we can use language, we can use experiences to make other people imagine with us. Writing sometimes in class can feel boring, I know. My goal is to make it feel fun, to make it feel personal, to make it about you. What is in your imagination? What is in your past? Let's use paper, pencils, words, imagination to create stories together. So in the story that Miss Kraft was reading, the character Ralph feels like he has nothing to write about. I have felt that way before. But get me out of the classroom and all I'm doing is talking and telling stories. How can we use our talking and telling stories and put them on paper? That's what we want to try and do today. Ralph's classmates use him as one of their main characters because he's so entertaining. I have a lot of entertaining people around me. And you know what? I write a lot about my dogs. They're always doing the funniest things. Writers are people that pay attention to what's happening around them. I'm always watching people and seeing what people are doing, and I'm thinking about them. You can use that as what you're writing. There's so many different things to write about. I hope you're starting to get a little excited. Every day, I'm going to have some writing activities for us. Every day. It's helpful if you keep all of your writing together in a notebook. So I have a writer's notebook. This looks like something you might have found at school. Well, it might look more like this. This is called a composition book. What I love to do with my writer's notebooks, first thing, is I like to decorate the covers. So up here I put a sticker. It says women's water polo. That's my favorite sport to play. I love to swim, and this is kind of like playing soccer, but in the water. I don't know. You use your hands, not your feet, but anyway, I love water polo. So I put a water polo sticker on my writer's notebook. I found a beautiful picture of some pyramids in Mexico. I would love to visit there. I've never been there. I've been to Mexico, but not to the Hotel Regis. So sometimes I put things that I want or I aspire to. There's a cookie store in Albuquerque, New Mexico called Rude Boy. Isn't that a funny name? And Rude Boy cookies are so delicious. They give out free stickers. I always grab free stickers, so I put that on here. I also have a picture of me and my most favorite person, Daniel, and we're jumping. Have you ever taken a jumping photo? I put my name, Abby. Yes, I'm also a teacher, so you can call me Miss Carlson, but for this, you can call me Miss Abby. And then I just drew a few things. I find that when I decorate my notebooks, I keep them a little bit safer. And pretty soon, these blank pages are going to be filled with so much creativity and so much imagination, and it's going to capture exactly what you were thinking in the summer of 2020. That's this summer. This is one way to have a writer's notebook. You'll buy it if you want and decorate it. Maybe you have some left over from the school year. Maybe you only used a few pages. Rip those out. Let's start a new notebook. Sometimes I get small little notebooks. People give them to me as gifts. That could be a writer's notebook. I fill this up with ideas, different things. This could be a writer's notebook as well. If I even want to take some blank paper that I have at home, fold it in half, slap on a title, this is a writer's notebook too. I saw Mrs. Kraft had writing journals that had construction paper, ribbons. That's a great way to keep your writing organized. I love this one. I already see what her and I have in common. Tacos. These are delicious. I see beautiful pictures. She also loves water. Kayaks. Oh, I'm thinking of a story when I saw sea otters while I was kayaking. Do you see? All of these things inspire writing. I see lots of different things, even some cuties. Her and I are so much alike, I can tell just by what she covers her writer's notebook in. So feel free to look at the mail that comes to your house, not if it's important, but sometimes they give things to buy. Cut out pictures of things that you want or that you love and attach them to the front of your writer's notebook. Now that we have an idea of how we want to keep our writer's notebook together, let's start filling it up. The first thing I do in a writer's notebook, I write a 5-paragraph essay. No, I don't. I don't write a 5-paragraph essay first thing. First thing, I have to get ideas. It's called a brainstorm. The first thing I have to do, I need to brainstorm ideas. Okay? So I start my first page with the heart of writing. This is not an assignment. This is an investigation for you. Characters, settings, events, and things I love. That sounds boring. But these are what stories are made of. And even more importantly, these are important things to you. So when I am brainstorming, what can I write about? What kind of stories do I have? First thing I want to think about are some of my favorite characters in the world. These are not characters from stories. These are characters from my life. You ready for this? One of my number one characters, my mom. My mom is one of my favorite characters. So I'm just going to write Mom. You know who else is a favorite character? My dad. Did you guess I was going to say that? My dad. I have 2 brothers. Ugh, just kidding. I love my brothers sometimes. So I have my brother Jesse and I have my brother Jacob. I'm going to put those characters on my heart too. As you're filling in your heart, think about characters, people, or animals that you love. I've put Mom, Dad, Jesse, Jacob. On the front of my writer's notebook, I have Daniel. So I'm going to write Daniel as well. I'm starting to fill it up with characters from my life. Characters don't just have to be people either. They can also be animals. So I'm going to write Max and Allie. Those are my 2 dogs. They're always doing silly things. I can write real stories about Max, or I can make make-believe stories about Max as well. These are just a few characters. I can put more best friends. I can put my aunts, my uncles. I can put teachers that I love. Characters are people or animals that I can write stories about. Characters are elements of narrative. Characters are a part. An element is a part. Characters are an important part of a story. Another element of narrative writing, settings. What are some places that are really important to me? As you fill in your heart of writing, you want to think of settings that are important to you. Some of my favorite settings are places that I love. Maybe I've been to before. They can be exciting places, safe places, secret places, restaurants. Think of settings or places that are important to you. I was born and raised in San Diego, California. So California is so important to me. So I'll put California. But now I live in New Mexico. I love New Mexico. I have so many stories about New Mexico. I will put California and New Mexico in my settings. But settings are places, and these are states. These are huge places. I can think about very specific places as well. One of my favorite places, I can't visit there anymore, but I have so many stories about it. My grandmother's house. My grandmother's house was the scene of so many family events. We would go to my grandmother's house for parties, for visits, for all different sorts of things. I can remember how my grandmother's house smelled. I can remember what it sounded like. She had airplanes flying over. She had wind chimes that would sway in the wind. I remember those sights, those sounds, those smells. They were all wonderful. So my grandmother's house, or my grandma's house, is one of my important settings. Another important setting, the swimming pool. I don't know if you can see, but I'm part fish. No, you can't see my fins? Just kidding. I'm not really a fish. I'm really a person. But swimming pools are one of my most favorite settings. I told you I liked water polo. I also just like having tea parties underwater. I like racing people in the pool. There's all different sorts of stories that I can tell you where the setting is a swimming pool. Now, events, these are special events that have happened to me in my life as well. These can be sad events, happy events, first-time events, all different types of events. We can talk about birthday parties. I still remember my 9th birthday. So I'm gonna write 9th birthday. I had a roller skating party. It was super fun. So I can put 9th birthday. Events can be things that have happened. And things I love, this is often food. I love food. More importantly, I love tacos. Oh, I love pho. It's a Vietnamese soup. It is so delicious. I could write about all my favorite places to eat pho. Things I love summer. I don't want to be cold, ever. I love to be hot. Plus, it's a great time to go swimming. So things I love summer, tacos, pho. Events I can talk about are my 9th birthday. I have other different events I can write about. I have settings, California, New Mexico, my grandma's house, characters. These are all elements of a narrative. In your writer's notebook at home, I want you to open it up and draw a large heart. I'm going to go ahead and remind you about the different elements. So inside your writer's notebook, on one page, make a heart. Inside the heart, you can draw squiggly dividing lines. And in the top left corner, you can write character. I'm going to add an S because I hope you write several different characters that are important to you. In the top right, setting. Now, because I have several settings that I like, I'm going to add an S to the end. In my bottom left corner, I'm going to write events. These are things that have happened. Birthday parties, celebrations, holidays, the first time you did something, the last time you did something. Events, oh, first day of school, the last day of school. Those are great events. And then this last section, I kind of keep open. It's called, things I love. In the things I love, it's kind of a catch-all. You can add any other parts or things that don't fit into these categories. This is called your heart of writing. The heart of writing is a brainstorm activity that you can use to write several different pieces of writing. I'm thinking of all these stories. As I go in my heart of writing, if I'm thinking, like Ralph, I don't know what to write, I can go into my heart of writing. I can go in and say, let me write about my 9th birthday. Let me write about the last time I was at my school. Let me write about the first time I met Allie the dog. These are all stories that I can write. This is helping me brainstorm, helping me get my ideas together. If you're already thinking of a story, turn the page, write the date, and start getting your ideas out of your imagination and onto the paper. I have another brainstorming idea for you as well. This one we are going to develop into a piece of writing. I'm going to show you how to turn these ideas into an actual piece of writing. Today's next brainstorming activity is called Scar Man. It's kind of a weird topic. Scar Man is about times that you got hurt. I know, sometimes we don't like to talk about them. Sometimes we love to talk about them. Scar Man is a brainstorming activity to get your ideas together of times that you were hurt. So on a fresh piece of paper in your writer's notebook, I kind of drew almost like a gingerbread person. This is going to be my map of times that I've gotten hurt. So go ahead, draw like a gingerbread person. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll learn that very quickly. Whoops, nothing has to be perfect. I'll start with the head. Then I'll kind of draw an arm without fingers, another arm without fingers, body, foot, another foot and a leg to finish my Scar Man. You can call yours a Scar Girl, Scar Lady, Scar Guy. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you think of the times that you got hurt. Think about those times. Maybe they were accidents. Well, they probably were accidents. Think about who was there. Who were the characters? Think about what were you trying to do? Think about all of that. Then we're going to, almost like a treasure map, we are going to plot different accidents that have happened. So on my Scar Man, I'm going to put a scar that really happened to me. Don't put my scars on your Scar Man. You want to put your scars. I have a scar right above my lip. It's really hard to see, but I'm going to put a line with some hashes on it. It's kind of like, it's to represent stitches. I got 7 stitches above my lip. Do you want to hear the story? Yes, that's the whole point. We're writing stories. This is a story right here. It's a time that I got hurt. This is a story idea. I have more. I broke my wrist. I did. I broke my right wrist. So I need to show on my Scar Man, I'm going to kind of draw a swirl because when you get a cast, they wrap bandages, really hard bandages, over your arm so that it stays stiff so it can heal. I broke my right wrist. Do you want to hear how it happened? Yeah, this is a story. This is an amazing story of how I broke my wrist. So I have a story of getting 7 stitches above my lip. I have a story of breaking my wrist. Wait, I have more. I got a bee sting right here. I still have a mark. That's a scar story. I'm going to put a little bee body stinging right there. That's a bee sting right in my wrist. It's a story. It's an accident. It happened at school. That is a scar story as well. I have more. You're going to think all I did was get into accidents. I kind of did, but it was fun before I got hurt on my leg. I have a big scar. I got 47 stitches in my leg, and it was all an accident. It all started with playing hide and go seek. I'm starting to tell you too much of my story. Every single one of these marks is a scar story. Every single one of these is a different story that I can tell. When I put them together on this paper, it reminds me of all the stories I can tell. Tomorrow, I'm going to start writing the story of one of these scars. I have to think tonight. I want to choose a story that I remember who the characters were around me. Who were the people that were there? I want to remember my setting. Where was I? When did it happen? I want to remember, what was I trying to do? I wasn't trying to get any of these scars. These were all accidents. But accidents sometimes make for great stories. So in order to do tomorrow's writing lesson, you have homework. I know you're home. Make a scar man. You may have to talk to your brother or your sister or your mom or your aunt, maybe your grandma. Talk to someone around and say, have I ever gotten hurt before? Maybe you have a story right in front of you. You can think of some scars that you'll put on your scar man, but try and remember a few accidents that you've had. I know sometimes they can make us feel a little sad inside, but writing about them will make us feel better, I promise. Tonight, I want you to make a scar man and also fill in your heart of writing. If you have these two brainstorming activities, they will definitely help you create many, many great stories, great narratives. We're going to be learning all about narratives. That's the fancy term for stories. We're going to learn about the elements that are inside narratives, how to recognize narratives. Tonight, I also want you to pay attention to the types of books you're reading at home. I hope you're reading at home. Find books that have characters and setting. Usually they have a few problems. Ralph's problem was he didn't know what to write. Officer Buckle and Gloria, this is a narrative too. Have you read this story? It's filled with so many problems and conflicts. The Three Javelinas, I love this. This is a great story or narrative as well. At home, look for different narratives that you can read. Maybe they're chapter books, maybe they're beautiful picture books. Let the Children March, beautiful picture book about being an activist. It's fantastic. Read and write tonight, and we'll be writing more tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Ms. Kraft and I really appreciated teaching English language arts with you. And we really hope that when you are writing your heart of writing or your scar man, that you share your examples with us. We have Twitter hashtags, we have Facebook, we have email, we have all different ways that you can share your examples with us. My goal is to make sure you see all the stories that you have around you and that you're writing wildly. You're just filling up notebook pages. Anything that you can take a picture of and share with us, we would be so excited to see. When you read narratives, that gives you great ideas as well. Those that are great story writers sometimes may not love reading, but reading gives me good ideas as well. So please, read a lot tonight. Make your scar man, make your heart of writing. and we will see you here tomorrow. Thank you so much. This is At Home with APS.